All right, welcome to the second review of the evening. Up this time, we have a pre-release review of Freddy Farmer. Freddy Farmer is a retro arcade-style game with 16-bit pixel art graphics in the style of the 80s and 90s, where you can test your skills as a player. Freddy's daughter has been kidnapped by an evil dragon that lives on top of an abandoned castle. The only possibility to rescue her is through a magic potion that only a mysterious wizard who lives in the forest can make. But to do so, he will need to get some very specific ingredients, and those in turn must be mixed in a certain order using magical cauldrons that are spread throughout the kingdom. With the only action of jumping, Freddy must collect all the ingredients while trying to avoid all of the enemies and dangers in his path until he reaches the cauldron at the end of each level, having collected the ingredients in the correct order. All right, so this was assigned to Galix. Um, the review order has been thrown off. So, anyway, and we got the Nintendo Switch version of this. So, Galix, take it away.
So yeah, mostly what I would have to say is what Adam already said. This is a pretty successful imitation of the early arcade platformer style. Honestly, you playing as a farmer is pretty much entirely arbitrary, but it alliterates, so that's nice.
Yeah.
It's a one-hit you kill, single screen puzzle thing where, like they said, the trick is that you, in each stage, have to collect 5 things and bring them to the cauldron, and for it to count towards game complete, like you can progress to the next stage in that area if you get them in the wrong order. But in order to for the potion on the world select map to count, and then that's how you get into the final areas where the dragon is, you have to get them in the right order, because otherwise the potion doesn't work, you see. You have 3 lives to start with. Occasionally a fairy will fly across the screen, and if you collect them you get an extra 500 points and an extra life. I think that only happens up to once per world, or once per stage. And yeah, you don't actually have to play the worlds in order, but there is the forest, the mines, the mountain, the graveyard, and then you have to play through a significant chunk of each of those before you get to the castle and the tower. There are apparently mini games to unlock and a harder mode to play the game in, or possibly 2, but I made it through the whole wood zone, and then like most of the mine zone, but barely anything else. Some minor quirks. This does use some scaling and rotation that stands out a little bit from the graphics, mostly swinging ropes. Just because this whole thing is mostly supposed to look retro, that one fails a little bit at it. It's fairly generous on jumping, but you cannot jump up through like any platforms. You will bonk your head on anything. You get points for jumping over enemies, a la in Donkey Kong, which can help you get more points, I guess, because this is ultimately a score attack game. You also get points for finishing levels in faster than necessary. Once you start climbing a ladder or descending a ladder, you cannot stop in the middle, which is bad sometimes.
Especially with as long as these ladders are, I can see that being a problem.
Yeah, specifically it's a problem because sometimes you need to dodge an enemy, and if there's an enemy at the top of the ladder, oops, you're dead. You also need to use your spatial awareness because in some of these, there are areas that you can get to that you just have no way of getting out of. Like areas where if you fall down from a certain point, you end up in an area between an enemy and the wall, with an enemy between you and the ladder. There are other environmental features like springy things, swinging ropes. Adam, can you please quiet down your child friend? Family child.
It's taken care of.
Okay, sorry. It was throwing me off a bit.
Sorry about that.
So yeah, you have to pay attention to how the enemies move. Most of them are pretty slow. Your jump is not good for getting altitude. You cannot jump over things as tall as you are.
Mm-hmm.
Which is usually you can do that in this kind of game. So there are some enemies that you just cannot jump over. You have to get away from them by jumping from a higher place or climbing down and up or something. So yeah, the ladders are a little bit finicky. Getting things in the right order is a little bit finicky, particularly because while I actually think for each stage, the order you get, the order and the items are the same per stage. The whole forest area, I think, is the same 5 things. The mine mixes it up a little bit, like sometimes you have to get a fish that jumps out of the water, sometimes you have to get a friggin' ladybug thing that bounces up and that hides in a hole sometimes. Sometimes you have to get a skull from a skeleton that's on the wall. But the locations are, I'm not going to say random, but they seem to be procedurally generated. In that there are a few possible areas they can be. And that can result in sometimes the level has a combination that's really easy, and sometimes the level has a combination that's really, really hard. Oh, one nice thing, a lot of old style games like this had fall damage. This one doesn't seem to. So that's nice. It does have wraparounds, but only where they're marked. So pay attention to those. And sometimes the wraparounds are not linear. Sometimes they are wraparound and up a level.
Oh, and the wraparounds also work for the enemies, too.
They usually do.
Sometimes they don't.
Okay, I will rephrase that. They do in some other games. Notably, the one that I'm thinking of are like Mario Brothers and not Joust, but the balloon fight version or something like that. I don't know. Anyway. So yes, Pettyfan has got himself in one of those areas where you can get into with no way of getting out if you're not careful. Thankfully, the mushroom guy was not evil and didn't turn around. So yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. It doesn't change a whole ton aside from each area has different enemies and each that you have to learn slightly different slightly different ways they act, and some of the collectibles have somewhat unique mechanics to them, like the fish jumping out of water.
I was not expecting the stump to charge me, but alright.
Yeah, no, for some reason they're one of the goes berserk and charges at you for way too long enemies. There is also, you can fill in your score, and if you want, you can submit it to an online leaderboard. I didn't do that because I didn't feel like it. Yeah, that's pretty much what there is to it. The music is pretty decent in a classic arcade way. I guess it's nice that you're rescuing your daughter instead of
And I guess there are some type of mini games if you've mentioned.
Yes, I don't know how to do those. I think you have to either do special things in some levels to unlock them, or possibly get them on a harder difficulty or something. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously I don't have much more information than what I was able to get myself because this game is not actually released yet. Do we have a price yet, Adam?
We do. It will retail for $5.
For $5, I would say this is actually pretty good, I think. You get to, as long as you like this kind of platformy type game, that has the one-hit kills, but even for that, it's not bad. It's nice that you at least get a few lives and can get extra lives in a not too obtuse or requires you to already be winning a ton. That's one of the things that I always hate, is games that give you extra lives, but only if you get like a bajillion score.
Mm-hmm.
So sure, you can keep playing for longer, but only if you were already winning.
Yeah. Get good.
Whereas in this one,
win
it's
more,
just
whatnot.
Fairy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I overall think this is actually a pretty solid game. It's not like going to become your new lifestyle, but you can get a little bit of enjoyment out of it.
Okay. A few other notes here. The release date will be on the Nintendo Switch, February 27th, which is just a few days out from when we were recording this, and March 3rd on the Steam storefront. So next week at time of recording. And it will also launch at a 20% discount for the first week. So be sure to look for it when it drops on your platform of choice.
Any word on any other platforms other than Switch and PC, or?
I'm looking. It says platforms: Nintendo Switch and Steam, which are the usual release platforms for Flynn's Arcade.
Fair enough. Figured I'd ask.
In fact, they're doing one better now. Now that they're covering, they're publishing the Steam versions of games. Granted, beforehand they were taking games that had already come out on the PC and bringing them to the Switch. Yeah, there's a fair few developers and publishers who do that, like our eternal frenemies, Radalikia. Anyway, yeah, I think that's all the information I need to relay. So, anything else from you, Galix, or you, Petty?
I'm good.
I think that's all I got.
All right. So, yeah, that'll about do it for Freddy Farmer here. Be sure to tune in after the break as we review Reality Break.